Hey guys, back at it here again. And this is not an album review tonight. The album review for Black Sabbath's Eternal Idol, that'll be coming up tomorrow night. And just like last Monday, I believe, we got something a little bit different going on here. Kind of shake it up a little bit. As you know, last Monday I ranked all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, which was really fun. And I kind of touched on this a little bit during that. But what I'm talking about today is ranking the looks of Freddy Krueger. So pretty much like the appearances and how like the makeup and such kind of looks on Robert Englund or Jackie Earle Haley in the movies themselves. Not really so much as how he's characterized. So for instance, like let's say like Freddy's Dead. That's like the goofiest, silliest Freddy of all time. I'm not judging him based on how he acted in that, just really the look and the appearance of him, the overall kind of aesthetic. So that's what we'll kind of be jumping into. I thought it'd be interesting. I've seen a lot of people do this with different horror movie icons, Jason, Michael, and I think it's really fun to do it too. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and knock that out and start it off with, also disclaimer, I'm sorry, beforehand. I'm not counting, I thought I'd go ahead and say, I'm not counting things like where he kind of transforms in dreams, such as, like Super Freddy, in Dream Child, or the chef outfit that he wore in Dream Master. I'm not really counting stuff like that. One kind of oddball appearance that I am counting, that's not like a main look in one of the movies, I'm counting the Demon Freddy from a scene in Freddy vs. Jason, because that one's just super cool. And it's not like he's in like a costume. He just like changed his face and all. So I am gonna count that in there just for fun. But if you guys want to count the others in there on your list, that's cool. Or if you would even think that maybe that one shouldn't be counted, I get you. But I'm gonna go ahead and count it just because I think it's a cool look. But with that being said, now we'll jump into it. And number 10 should be obvious, especially if you saw the rankings and how much I kind of shit on this look of Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, 2010. He looks like a lizard or a reptile, little alien-like. I've seen the way it was kind of, they did the makeup, which was like put the layer on there and did like CGI and like the sides of the face and all, and like the muscles, and it just, I can't do it. It looks awful. In fact, that's a big problem with the movie, is how much, like, how dumb he looks. I can't really take him all that serious, And I get they were going for kind of the realistic burn victim kind of thing, because they really start looking kind of like that. But it's just like, they went too far with it, in my opinion, to where it took away, some of that, like, character in the face, and it just made him look weird, as it for, like, any of the Robert Englund ones, even the ones I don't like, coming up on these next couple rankings, he at least looks like Freddy, and it would be the same thing as if, let's make, let me think of a good comparison here. Let's make Jason look exactly like an actual zombie would look, instead of, looking a little over the top with it, with like, the missing eye and like the way, instead of Jason having like the rotten kind of flesh he has like that. I'm sure it wouldn't look quite as bad as that, if they tried to make him look like, this is how a dead body would actually be decayed. Hell, if that was the case, he'd be like a freaking skeleton at that point, So it's kind of like, don't go too far in the realism. It's a movie, and that really was the downfall of him overall for me as Freddy. And I just can't stand that look. But anyways, number 9. Speaking of Freddy's Dead, that's it. And like I said, it's not because of the characterization. Even though I hate the way he's characterized in that movie for the most part, if you've seen the rankings of that. But the look, it looks like, and I've heard people describe it before as, Freddy turning back into Robert Englund. And that's really true, honestly, especially in this one. Man, it's almost like around the eyes, you can pretty much see, Robert Englund just kind of peeking through there, I don't know if Freddy always looks like Robert Englund because that's who he is, underneath it. But I see too much of like just regular skin, around the eyes. Like you can really tell they just like kind of caked on the makeup real quick. it's too flesh tone to me. It looks like bubble gum. Like, I just can't with that look. I do not like it at all. There's some really bad shots of him in there, especially like with he's doing that, is making his face with like the power glove and like the little grin he's got. It just looks awful. I cannot stand the Freddy's Dead look, and it would literally be the worst look if it weren't for that remake being a thing. So number 9 out of 10 here, Freddy's Dead, and that gives us to number 8, a movie that I actually really adore, and I think it's underrated. Or really, I don't think it's underrated. I just think, I like it. I don't know. I'm weird for liking it, I guess, because most people hate this one. But I mean, I just enjoy it. Dream Child. And yeah, I do. I love this movie. I really do. And I know it's got its dumb parts and all. But the look of Freddy in it for me, it's almost like he's wet the whole time. And it's just like a little too slick. And he's got like these dark kind of circles under his eyes that I'm not really the biggest fan of. I'm not really sure. Like maybe, and I think maybe they kind of have that aesthetic to him, like him being kind of wet and stuff to kind of make him look like Reborn or whatever, because that's kind of what the movie was going for. But yeah, I just couldn't really get into that look. It's it just looks a little weird to me, and it also kind of is looking more and more like Robert Englund kind of around here in the like he's turning back into Robert Englund, just not as extreme as maybe Freddy's Dead. So at least that, and at least it's kind of a little bit of a different look to him, with like the dark circles, but it just doesn't look as cool to me. I have problems with that one. Next up, we have at number 7. These number 7 and up are all ones I totally dig. And this one pretty much lies at number 7. I mean, we barely saw it, but it was cool. It's kind of the one I already talked about with the disclaimer. That Demon Freddy from Freddy vs. Jason, and man, that was badass looking. Like, if we did get, like, a movie with just that Freddy in there, I'd be totally cool with it, like, back in the day, like, if they would have, released another Nightmare, maybe after Freddy vs. Jason or something, because that is creepy as hell looking, where he's in that scene and it's all red and that dream thing, and, man, that is such a creepy look with the devil ears, and you kind of get a little hint of, like, a demon-type Freddy in New Nightmare at the end, where, he's, like, turns into, like, that devil thing for a flash when they're killing him. But I didn't count that look because that's like a flash of the scene, pretty much. But yeah, Demon Freddy's really cool. We didn't really get much of him. So, I mean, it doesn't really, stand out as much or isn't as memorable because it was just like a scene or so. But it's memorable enough because it is that like super different and it's just really cool. I dig that look and would have been totally down with them making a movie with him just like that. Maybe a New Nightmare Part 2. And maybe they could have had him like that. That would have been cool. But then we get number 6. And I actually went with the original design of Freddy. And, he's pretty cool looking in that one. He doesn't have the stripes on his sleeves. They're just red sleeves with the stripes and kind of darker colors. The makeup, as far as that goes, it's clear that they weren't, it is the first movie, so they didn't really know probably exactly how they wanted him to look. Or like how he would be, go on to look in the iconic look form. Like the first one, usually with a lot of movies, like Michael Myers, for instance, the first Michael is like the most iconic one. But like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's really not the case. Freddy, it's not typically the Freddy people think of when they think of Freddy Krueger, me especially. But I do like it. You get more of the black kind of and like grayish like burns and stuff on the face there. And he's got really nasty teeth in that one, which I like. So part 1 Freddy, he's cool. I really like that look. And it does, it does stand out pretty well in the series, actually. Like when you go and like watch them in order or, anytime I go back to that, I'm like, man, Freddy's like really creepy looking. So he's really freaky looking in part 1. So they totally nailed that. Then we're about halfway here. Number 5. We're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy, and man, he looks like demonic as hell in that one. He's got like the reddish and yellow eyes and almost like the dark reddish kind of purpley and skin, and like the nose is more pronounced, and like the indentions around his face. I love that look, and it's just grown and grown on me over the years, the look of part 2. He looks just freaking scary in that one as well. And I mean, hell, I had a tough time not putting it maybe a little bit up, but I do love that look. And I think it's like, even though part one's just right behind in the rankings, I think that part two look is miles ahead better though. Like there's a pretty big leap in between those two numbers there, of how much better that part two look of Freddy is. Super cool. I think it would have been cool to maybe have seen more of that kind of look of Freddy, you know, and people maybe try to go for that look for him more times. We kind of got a little bit of a hint of that in, you know, Freddy versus Jason. He kind of like had some of those kind of features, like in part two, kind of like a amalgamation of different Freddys. But we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, number 5 is Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy. Super cool look. Then we got number 4, and man, I freaking love this one. This one is probably the most unique. Or not probably, this one just is the most unique in the series, and it is Wes Craven's New Nightmare Freddy. I mean, man, you know, I guess technically you wouldn't say it is Freddy because it's a demon taking his form, you know, or whatever in the real world. But whatever, it's Freddy Krueger, you know. The black jacket, you know, that trench coat and like the big boots and the greenish hat and the reverse sweater, like the bulkiness that Robert has going on in that one. Man, it's just super cool, super standout, and I love the makeup on it. Really demonic looking, and the biomechanical glove. Hell, you know, this is my girlfriend's favorite look, is, like I said in the video, in my ranking video of the movies. She loves the look of New Nightmare. That's not even her favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. She does love it, but that's her favorite way Freddy's ever looked. She just thinks it's so cool, and I'm with her there. I think it's awesome looking. But I do think there's some better and more iconic and just the way I picture Freddy. But yeah, New Nightmare Freddy, I mean, I've got a figure of it and everything, which, you know, I think I'll eventually show off my horror figure collection at some point. I may make a video about that or something, you know. But yeah, I've got that is just such a standout look of Freddy. And I think, you know, I wish maybe it was more, you know, talked about as far as like the way he's looked, and maybe, you know, shown off more in like, you know, on merchandise and stuff, because it's such a cool look, you know, just that jacket and all. Love it. Super standout look for him. Would have been cool to maybe get another kind of look like that for him, or at least a look with Freddy in that jacket, because that was pretty freaky. Anyways, number 3, top 3 here. Freddy versus Jason. That I was already kind of talking about it. It's like an amalgamation of a lot of these looks. Like you got kind of the witchy looking nose from part 2, the teeth that are kind of really distinct on it. Kind of like part 1 has really distinct teeth, and this one, I mean, man, the teeth in his eyes in this one are like, in that opening scene, you see the blood on like his fangs, on the tip of his fangs, and really sharp teeth, and you know, his eyes are like they're like whited out and almost, or like really light pupils in it. It's just super cool. Like in that opening shot in Freddy vs. Jason, that's one of the coolest shots, you know, when it's like zoomed up on his face. And you know, he's got like the sores and stuff all over his head, and kind of like part 3, and then like part 4, he's got kind of like more of the lighter pinkish skin. So he's really like just a big combination. And this is one of the most iconic looks of Freddy, I think. I think they did a hell of a job on the makeup for him in that movie. And, you know, sadly, you know, this is at this moment, you know, and maybe truly be the last time we ever see Robert in a Friday 13th, or sorry, in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, in the makeup or anything. But, you know, what a cool look to be your final appearance in a movie. Because I know he did appear in like a cameo with some show or something, dressed in the makeup, and he looked really cool in that. But I wasn't going to include that here because he wasn't even in one of the movies. But, you know, that it just got me wishing that, you know, maybe he would hop back in that makeup one more time and do one more movie to just close it out, you know. And I wouldn't have a problem with him looking a lot like the way, or even exactly the way he did in Freddy vs. Jason, because it's just menacing. But yeah, that's number 3. Number 2 and 1, it's pretty tough because they are, you know, they're very similar, but they do have their differences. Number 2, I'm going to go with the look in Dream Master. And it's kind of hard to talk about the Dream Master look without mentioning, you know, if you're doing process elimination, my number 1 look is the Dream Warriors. And the Dream Master, the way he kind of looks in that is kind of like almost like a lighter color, like the sweater is kind of a little bit brighter. That's a really kind of colorful Nightmare movie. So it's kind of like a brighter variation in a way to the Dream Master look. And as for the makeup, it's also very similar, but lighter colored, less like red in it and stuff. You know, more of like a fleshy tone. But it's really cool. He does have the kind of like creepy looking nose thing going on. Kind of like in the part 2 in Freddy vs. Jason, he does have more of that going on, which I totally dig. And, you know, part 4 is one of the most iconic looks of Freddy as well. That one, you know, is definitely one that comes to mind when thinking about him. You know, or it's just that's such an iconic look to him. You know, that's one of the Freddys that's on the merch. On that box set I have, you know, that I showed off, that's him in the promo art and that jacket and hat, which would have been cool to see that, you know, on camera, actually, instead of just promo art, Dream Master Freddy in the jacket and all. But yeah, his makeup is just spot on in this. That's a classic look of Freddy. He looks menacing. But that number 1 spot, the Dream Warriors, big surprise. You know, that's my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie, my favorite movie of all time. And it's, you know, it's my favorite look of Freddy. It's just, man, you know, it's the perfect blend for me as far as like, and that's what I think of when I think of Freddy Krueger, you know, whether it be him in the movie, appearing in the Dawkins videos, you know, or like the commercials and the trailers, and, you know, even in that flashback sequence in Freddy vs. Jason, a lot of the stuff they were showing was Dream Warrior stuff. But, you know, it's the perfect blend of like that red and fleshy tone. You know, he doesn't quite have the super pronounced nose like he does in part 2 and Dream Master Freddy vs. Jason, but like it's just the perfect blend for me of looking creepy and yeah, and also looking like, you know, like pretty bombastic and like, you know, stand out as far as like the wetness of the flesh, not like too much like in Dream Child, but like, I mean, they look like burns, and it doesn't look like it feels good. But he looks freaking badass the whole time. That's literally when I think of Freddy Krueger, bam, Dream Warriors Freddy pops in. I love the darker tones of like you know, of the sweater and all, the darker reds and greens as opposed to like the brighter that the Dream Master kind of went with following that. And you know, as Dream Master, it is more of a darker movie. And so pretty much Dream Warriors Freddy, the way he looks, the way I feel about how he looks is really the way I feel about the movie, of how he's the perfect blend of like the comedic and scary Freddy. And again, I know we're not talking about the way he was portrayed in it, but I'm just saying like it's a parallel, how I think he's like the perfect blend of like looking like real Burns but then still looking like Freddy and looking, you know, like how we know Freddy to be. So, yeah, guys, this was a fun one to do. I love talking about this horror movie stuff. I've been a big horror movie fan for a long time. Hell, I think a year ago I mentioned possibly doing rankings and stuff for the series. And, you know, after I ranked the Nightmare on Elm Street series last week, I was like, I want to start doing some stuff with this. So, you know, I have other stuff I've got in mind, too, that I could maybe throw in. I got a lot of passions and stuff. So, you know, so there's all kinds of stuff I could keep bringing up here, you know, some cool ideas and stuff with comic books, video games, different stuff like that. Of course, my album reviews always being a thing. And you know, I may not do it may be a bit till we get another horror movie thing going on. Because like I said last time, when I'm ranking the Nightmare movies, I mean, I've seen like, you know, a lot of these franchises, all of them on multiple occasions, but I'm just kind of watching them again at my own pace. Like right now we're going to watch through the Hellraiser movies again. And I'm not really in a hurry to, you know, or trying to kind of be like, oh, I got to watch this one then. Kind of like the album reviews, to where it's like you do one at a time. I'm just kind of going at my own pace, rewatching them, you know, having fun with it in between work and all. And then just whenever I get done rewatching them, I'll probably, you know, do a ranking of them. And instead of doing a ranking of Pinheads, because he kind of looks the same for the most part, besides like the two actors, you know, different actors, I'll probably like rank the Cenobites or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, with that being said, guys, you know, let me know your guys' favorite look of Freddy. It's really a cool thing. There's really no wrong answer here. Hell, if someone likes the remake one best because of how realistic it looks, I see where they're coming from, I guess. I despise that look, but that's cool if they like it. And like I said, stay tuned. Tomorrow, the Black Sabbath review of the Eternal Idol is coming up. Get ready for that. I'm super hyped. We're almost out of the 80s stuff with Sabbath, which has been just a hell of a time journeying through. So, like, subscribe, comment, guys. And, like I said, let me know your favorite look of Freddy. Thanks.